Drivers, start your engines!
This is MRN Motorsports Monday, presented by Outback Steakhouse. One full hour of news, interviews, and opinion about the past weekend's racing action. Brought to you by Hercules Tires.
Pace car is up.
Now, here are your hosts, Woody Cain and Joey Meyer.
Green flag, green flag.
Welcome to Motorsports Monday, presented by Outback Steakhouse. As you heard, I am Woody Cain. However, this is probably not Joey Meyer. You got way too much hair to be Joey Meyer.
I have a little more hair than Joey.
Welcome, Kim Coon, to the program. Good to have you on board.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, hopefully I fill Joey's shoes well, although I didn't bring any hardware this weekend. I know you had the race-winning spotter for the last 2 weeks, so
you came to class without your homework.
Yeah.
She's got a lot of homework there, so we are going to be good. Wait a minute. Generally misunderstood? What is going on here? I am misunderstood. But we have a big weekend after New Hampshire Motor Speedway. Lots of racing on Saturday. We had Kyle Busch winning for I think the millionth time I've got somewhere here in my notes.
Have been.
Yeah, I mean, the guy leads 190 of 200 laps and doesn't change left side tires the whole time. He's now led, Kim, 17,000 laps in the Xfinity Series.
Incredible. Digging his place into the NASCAR Hall of Fame is what he's making a case for himself and just keeps digging and digging.
He already is there for sure. I think 6 out of 10 times this year he's won, and I can't believe that he got to the whole way 200 laps and didn't change the left side tires once, and it didn't come back to bite him. Now, granted, that last caution that came out didn't give the guys with 4 tires enough chance to get up there to him, but still, that's remarkable.
My eyes, though, were on Eric Jones because the one driver that was able to pass Kyle, because he did get passed once the entire race, was Eric Jones. And so I think we see a potential 2016 NASCAR Xfinity Series champion in Eric Jones.
And he clinched his spot in the postseason chase for the Xfinity Series as well on Saturday. Great ticket on Saturday. If you weren't there, we'll talk a little bit more about this and on track, off track a little bit later on in the segment about what a value it is at New Hampshire Motor Speedway to see all that racing. But first, we need to give our friends at Outback Steakhouse a little love because don't forget the race in there today for a free Bloomin' Onion because Kevin Harvick finished in the top 10. Outback Steakhouse done right. Check out their new center cut sirloin, their lunch specials starting at $6.99. They're spectacular. And even though Joey's not here, the Joey menu, he thinks it's named after him, but it's really the kids menu. It's fantastic. Check it out. And their app is really cool as well.
They have a lot of great stuff over there. I'm just waiting for them to stop the Bloomin' Monday thing because of how well Kevin Harvick
too much money. That's amazing.
It's great for them, though, because they get a lot of promotion out of it because Kevin finishes so well so often.
Yeah, he does. We'll talk a little bit more about Kevin Harvick's day later on in the program. If you want to participate in our fan forum hotline, you can do that at 844-4ASK-MRN 24/7. Any questions you have, you can do that then. We'll try and answer them along the way as we go. And if you want to play along with us on Twitter, mine is at WYCain. Hers is at Kim Coon. Use that hashtag AskMRN so we can find your question along the way. And don't forget, big show coming up today. As we mentioned, we're going to be talking some Xfinity Series racing. Alex Bowman was the story of the weekend. He's going to be along. And Rico Abreu is going to be here. We thought with the truck race coming up at Eldora and him having a big weekend there in the sprint car world, he'd be a great guy to talk to. And, boy, he's going to give us some kind of preview, I think, for this weekend, this midweek race.
I'm really excited. We call this Motorsports Monday, but when we're talking to Rico, it's going to be Mud Monday because that's all I want to hear about is what his plans are for Eldora.
Yeah, he really did have a fantastic week. So let's talk about the Cup race at New Hampshire Motor Speedway. The Joe Gibbs Toyota's very fast again. They had dropped off a little bit over the past few weeks. 2 straight wins, as you mentioned, for the 2-car with Joey Meyer here bringing the trophies in. But at the end of the day, they're back up front again. But Matt Kenseth may have a little issue.
You think?
Yeah, you think he failed post-race inspection, and the penalty we saw earlier was about 15 points for that. So we're looking for that on Wednesday again.
Yeah, and you get a lot of griping on Twitter with, how can he win the race and fail post-inspection? But those are how the rules are. He still gets the win. So even though he will get a point penalty, he's still in the books is the winner.
Yeah, and it's not like this is unprecedented. This is the way it's been for years and years now. They don't take the win away. They take points away. And him already having a win, that's not really going to hurt him because he was already going to be in the chase anyway with the earlier victory.
Yeah, so I don't really think this team is sweating it too badly.
Yeah, and by the way, folks, if you're watching on a Monday, Matt Kenseth is going to be the guest on NASCAR Live, which airs on Tuesday night at 7 Eastern. However, at 4 o'clock Monday afternoon, we're going to be doing our interview with Matt Kenseth for NASCAR Live, and you can call in and participate as well. That's 1-800-2-NASCAR. That's 4 o'clock Eastern time on Monday if you'd like to ask Matt Kenseth a question when Mike Bagley talks to him, and that should be a lot of fun as well because, Matt has that dry sense of humor, and Bagley is so way up here.
He'll pull it out of Matt.
That
Matt's
should be
one of my
fun.
favorites. You got to listen closely at Matt because he has that dry sense of humor, but he sneaks it in. You miss it sometimes.
Yeah, he really does.
Yeah.
Speaking of the race again, the Cup race, Matt Kenseth, as we said, wins. But how about Tony Stewart? A late surge here, his final year in Cup competition, and he's reeling off now. I think the stat I had was back-to-back top fives for the first time since 2014. Looks like he's setting himself up for a good finish to his final season.
Absolutely, and I love seeing that. I love that we're going to Indy soon because he's won there before. We could certainly see him in victory lane again. But how about that race for second, though, there at the end, passing Joey Logano? So it was almost more exciting to watch that battle for second, and Tony grabbed that spot than it was to see Matt Kenseth take the checkered flag. And I think that's just the drive we've always seen from Tony. It's kind of a little bit of a resurgence. He was in a little bit of a ditch there for a while, but he's definitely bringing that team back up. Very impressed, though, with Mike Bugarevich. He's technically a rookie crew chief. He didn't get to work with his driver for the first, 8 or 9 races of the season. And just what he's done with that team and leading a veteran driver, which is very challenging as a new crew chief, I think is phenomenal.
And can you imagine the way he felt at the beginning of the season? They announced him at the end of the previous year, you're going to be Tony Stewart's crew chief. Yay! Oh, he's going to miss the first 2 months. Yippee. Now what do I do?
Yeah. Well, I do think this opens the door for more wins from that team. And then just more good finishes. Because the thing with Tony is once he gets on a roll and once he's having fun, that's where you see the Tony performing like the Tony Stewart we have grown to love, is when he's having fun. I think he's gotten to a spot because of the good finishes he's had, because he has a win under his belt. He's broken the top 30 in points, that he's actually having fun, which again is going to lead to more successful finishes.
Do you agree with me on this? I think a lot of attitude, chemistry, and all those things are underrated in racing compared to other sports. You hear about it all the time in other sports, but I think people think, casual fans at least have a tendency to think in racing, it's so dependent on the technology that doesn't matter.
No, I think that's completely wrong. I think we should put more focus on the attitude and just the camaraderie among the team. We forget sometimes it is a team sport. There's so much emphasis placed on the drivers. They're the ones we typically hear from post-race. We're not necessarily always talking to the crew chiefs or, the tire changers or, the car chief. It's usually the focus is on the driver, but it's just like football. They're the quarterback. Yes, they might be the star or the most recognizable name on that team, but there's so many other people that
if a lineman gets a hold, you're still going back 15 yards.
Yeah, and so not only is it the attitude and the drive of the driver, but it's the entire team you have to take in consideration, because if there's any chemistry that's off, the whole team's going to be off.
Yeah, and it can jump up and bite you very, very quickly. Yeah. As we mentioned, don't forget, folks, that we're going to be having a great show for you today. Rico Abreu is going to be along to talk some dirt racing at Eldora and truck racing on Wednesday night at Eldora. We'll have that one for you live on Motor Racing Network. It's the Aspen Dental Eldora Dirt Derby from Eldora. That's a mouthful. It's going to be 7 o'clock Wednesday will be our airtime for that, so you want to make sure you're around to check that one out as well. And Alex Bowman will join us. What a story with him. Here you find out late in the week that Dale Jr. is not going to drive, and it's Alex Bowman. You're up, kid. Go.
I am so excited to talk to Alex. Just following kind of his tweets and his timeline of the week and how it progressed, he was, I would say, just as surprised as anybody else to get that call, and it happened so late in terms of preparing yourself mentally and physically for a race. I thought he did a phenomenal job. He ran inside the top 10 for the majority of the race. He was as high as 8th, I think. I think he could have even potentially had a top 5 finish. And he would have been the best finisher of the Hendrick cars had that happened. And so, again, really excited to talk to Alex, kind of see what his takeaways were from the weekend. And it was nice to see him back in the Cup car. I think that's what people have forgotten. That was the first time we saw him in a Cup car this year, and those laps on Friday in practice were the very first time he was behind the wheel with the 2016 lower downforce package, which I don't think people took that into consideration.
Yeah, because they forget too that he had a full-time Cup ride the year before,
and
then lost that. And lost
Yeah.
that ride late, and then suddenly was going to do a part-time Xfinity schedule. Next thing you know, hey, you want to drive Dale Jr.'s car?
Yeah, and it was funny because I saw some tweets from fans saying, why didn't he have a rookie stripe on the back of the 88? I'm like, you forget, he's not. He was in the Sprint Cup Series for two full years. He just didn't have the equipment to let him show off the skill set that he really has, and I think we saw that yesterday. So I'm excited to talk to Alex.
All right, fantastic program coming up for you. Tweet at us, use that hashtag AskMRN if you have a question. We'll get to those through the show as we continue. We'll take a timeout here. When we come back, Alex Bowman joins us on the other side.
This is MRN Motorsports Monday.
In the Outback, we think the best part about racing is the noise, the engine, the pits, and a Kevin Harvick top 10 finish. Especially a Kevin Harvick top 10 finish. That's because if Kevin Happy Harvick, driver of the number 4 Chevrolet, places in the top 10 in today's race, there's free bloomin' onions this Monday. So you'll have a happy bloomin' Monday. Only at Outback Steakhouse. Valid with any purchase. One per table. Participation may vary. Registered trademarks used with permission.
Ever wish your kid came with an instruction manual? I'm behavioral therapist James Lehman, and I'll show you how to change your child's behavior now with the Total Transformation, the program that helps stop defiance, backtalking, lying, acting out in school, even problems with ADD and ADHD. There's no screaming, no fighting, no frustration. Your child will listen to you again. I guarantee it.
Change your child's behavior now with the Total Transformation. Call now. 1-800-406-2945. 1-800-406-2945.
Ready to take the training wheels off your race scanner? Go to fanvision.com and upgrade your experience with FanVision. Not only will you be able to hear the race,
Dale Earnhardt Jr. gets a good run, drafting help from Kyle Busch and Kevin Harvick. Jr. again pulls up alongside for the race lead.
you'll see every moment through live video, instant replays, live stats, and more.
Hi, I'm Jamie McMurray, driver of the #1 Cessna Chevrolet, and I never go to the track without my FanVision. So go to fanvision.com to rent or buy yours today.
Hey, I'm Martin Truex Jr. Now back to Joey Meyer and Woody Cain on Motorsports Monday. Joey Meyer? Is that the Joey Meyer, the spotter? Pilot? Joey Meyer, pilot, spotter, is on the radio? You guys actually... Wow. Can you record this? Can you record this and be like, wow, Joey Meyer's on the radio. Unbelievable.
It is unbelievable, but Joey is in Lake Tahoe right now having an appearance for Discount Tire with Team Penske, so we'll welcome him back next week. Meantime, we've got Kim Coon filling in for us and joined on the guest line now by the guy who was the story of the weekend, at least going in, Alex Bowman. He joins us now. Alex, welcome to the program, man. You have been the busiest guy in motorsports for about the past 2 days, right?
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. It definitely was a heck of a weekend. I hate the circumstances, but was glad to get the call to fill in for Dale, and feel like we had a pretty solid day yesterday until we had a flat left rear.
I do want to know what was going through your head when you got that call.
I guess initially I got pretty overwhelmed. I mean, there's a lot of stuff Friday morning that happened before I was able to get in the race car, and I really just wanted to get in the race car and get going with the weekend, and just a lot of media stuff. I didn't have my Cup license renewed, so I had to go do that. Kind of was all over the place. So it was pretty hectic and stressful at first, but I think after I got in the race car the first time, it calmed down quite a bit, and everybody at Hendrick Motorsports was super welcoming, and everybody at JRM helped me as much as they could, and I just made for a pretty seamless weekend, just busy.
Yeah, man, it certainly was busy. Listen, I know Junior Motorsports does a lot of video stuff and a lot of streaming stuff, have a lot of fun with it, and they were doing some stuff with Pokemon Go last week, and I saw they went in, and wait, you've got an office and a desk now at JRM? What's up with that?
I was just in there signing a bunch of stuff. They had a whole bunch of windshields laid out and all that good stuff, but yeah, they...
I mean, does it say Mr. Bowman on the door or what?
I wish. I mean, I think that'd be pretty cool, but yeah. I think... productivity of the upstairs at JRM has gone significantly down since Pokemon Go came out, for sure.
Oh, man. Are you giving lessons on how to find all the Pokemon?
No, I think really after we drove around for 2 hours going through all the neighborhoods around my house looking for Pokemon, I think after that, I decided to delete it and say that takes way too much of my time, and I have way too much other stuff going on right now.
Fair.
Yeah.
Probably a good decision.
Very busy for sure. Let's talk a little bit about the race. A lot of guys were talking about how well the tires were holding up on Sunday, how difficult it was to pass, but late in the race, you find yourself 7th, 8th with a chance at a top 5 finish. Tell us about your day.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're about the same as the 14 and definitely better than the 22, and they finished 2nd, 3rd. So, you know, the first run we went forward for a good bit there, and caution came out. We took 2 tires, and our race car really did not like 2 tires. So fell back a little bit, but then we took 4 again and started going back forward, and we drove all the way into the top 10. And, you know, I was that last pit stop, I had passed the 19, so he was pitted right in front of me. So he came in and he came in at a big angle, so his tail was hanging way over. And I was trying to get out, and as I got out, or was swinging out, he, I guess, was backing up to try to get out as well. So his right rear hit my left rear. We thought we were going to be okay, and passing Kurt there for, I don't know, 6th or 7th or 8th, somewhere in there, and left rear started going down and then went the rest of the way down on the straightaway. So I hate it for everybody at Hendrick Motorsports, but I feel like they definitely knew we were there. Definitely a solid top 10 day, if not a top 5 day. So it was a lot of fun to get to fill in, and obviously hope Dale's feeling better, but I really, really enjoyed this weekend.
Which, have you had a chance to talk to Dale? I know he tweeted, we saw the tweet from Dale post-race just saying, you know, what a strong run you have and that your finishing position wasn't indicative of your actual race. Did you have a chance yet, though, to debrief with Dale?
We haven't really had, like, a big debrief. I talked to him yesterday before we took off on a plane. He was just, I guess he was happy for me and said he was proud of me. I got a bunch of text messages yesterday that were really cool. I got a text message from Tony Stewart saying that he was really proud of me. So that means a lot coming from people like that. So, I mean, I got to race with a lot of people that I've raced around for the last couple of years, but never really raced with and against. So to get to race with guys like Jimmy Johnson and Kurt Busch and Tony Stewart and run that well, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, you definitely had a great run. Woody and I were talking, though, before you jumped on with us, how this was actually your very first time in a Sprint Cup Series car this year, and those laps at Friday's practice were your first with that 2016 lower downforce package. So was there any sort of learning curve for the first few minutes of practice?
I think Loudon, being the racetrack that it is, doesn't really, I mean, I don't think the downforce package really has a lot to do with how the cars drive. Obviously, probably changed it a little bit, but not a ton. So I feel like I was, with the exception of having to just kind of get back in the rhythm of how the Cup cars drive and adapt to being in Dale's seat and his insert and using his steering wheel and all that. I feel like other than that, I was okay, but the first couple laps were definitely just a little bit of an adaptation period.
Well, based on, I mean, a lot of people forget, Alex, that you had a full-time ride the 2 previous seasons before that. Based on that experience with what you felt at New Hampshire, do you feel like they're moving in the right direction with this downforce package?
I think so. I mean, I think New Hampshire is always going to be hard to pass, so it's kind of a tough place for me to really give a thumbs up on it from. But at the same time, NASCAR works so hard at making things better and trying to make the racing better. I mean, if you look at racing like in the 70s and 80s, and you'd have a couple cars left on the lead lap at the end of the day.
That's not what people want to remember, though. You know, I mean, the people have a tendency to romanticize the past a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we had 26 cars on the lead lap at the end of the day yesterday. I mean, that's pretty crazy to me. I was kind of bummed because I thought I knew we were still gonna stay on the lead lap even with all the damage after the wreck, and then we can't come home 26. So I'm like, man, there were that many cars still on the lead lap. So obviously the racing is extremely close, and NASCAR is doing a great job with it. Loudon's a tough place to pass, and it's always going to be, but I think they're doing everything they can to make it better.
Obviously, when you're behind the wheel of, such an iconic car, the 88. It's a position for almost an audition. What did you want to get from yesterday's race? Was it, the potential to possibly run full-time in the Xfinity Series? Was it potentially moving back up to the Sprint Cup Series in some sort of part-time deal? Even just, being the go-to guy for additional substitutes for drivers, be it whoever it is?
Mm-hmm. I think the biggest thing that I wanted to get out of it was just to prove that I can race up there with those guys. I've run Cup for 2 years, but never really had an opportunity to prove that I can run up front and run top 10 and contend for top 5. So I think I did that yesterday. I think hopefully open some eyes and the phone will start ringing a little bit more. I'm really happy at Junior Motorsports. I don't necessarily need to jump back into a Cup car. I think everybody at JRM's working really hard to try to put together a full-time program. Obviously, it takes a lot of sponsorship and there's a lot of moving pieces, but we're working really hard to sell and to bring new partners on board and all that good stuff. So that's where I want to be. Ideally, next year I want to contend for an Xfinity Series championship, but I think the biggest thing was just proving that I can do that, proving that I can run up there with those guys, and I can get the job done.
Chatting with Alex Bowman, who drove the number 88 Nationwide Chevrolet for Dale Earnhardt Jr. and Hendrick Motorsports on Sunday at New Hampshire. On Saturday, Alex, you had a top 10 in the Xfinity side, led a handful of laps as well. What's ahead for you on that schedule? I know it's a limited deal, but what's ahead for you on the Xfinity side?
Yeah, I'm not in an Xfinity car again until Richmond, so I'm going to be bored here the next couple months probably, but I just got a puppy, so I'm literally I'm walking behind him right now, hoping that he doesn't pee on the floor while I'm on the phone with you guys. So, hopefully we'll be really good at Richmond. Obviously, the 88 won last time there, and they're notoriously really, really strong there. So, I think we can have a good, solid day. But to finish the year, I have Richmond, Dover, Phoenix, and Homestead. So, just 4 more.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, knowing that you have 4 more races in the Xfinity Series, and you got in a little bit of a scuffle with Ty Dillon, who you'll see on track again in those 4 races. Any concern that you might see another incident pop up with him, or maybe he could potentially be holding a grudge that could cost you some track position in these upcoming 4 races?
Well, I'm sure he's holding a grudge. I'd be upset too. I didn't mean to just right rear him. I had a bunch of wheel in it. He drove me all the way, literally into the wall, and it snapped loose and came down the racetrack just a little bit, and a little bit went a long way and ended up wrecking him. So I hate that. I didn't mean to do it by any means. I tried to get his phone number from Austin yesterday, and Austin just started yelling. So you'll have that. I get that they're upset. I'll try to talk to Ty. I wasn't going to go over right after the race and talk to him. I feel like that would have been, obviously, he was really mad, probably would have wanted to try to fight. We both would have said things and done things that probably would have ended up getting us both fined or in trouble, or we would have looked bad on TV and all that good stuff. So kind of just try to let him cool down. I'll talk to him from there. Hopefully we can race each other respectfully from now on. Obviously it was unintentional, but I think really we're just going to focus on going out and winning races.
There's the puppy.
We're out front and he can't catch us.
Yeah, the good news is you didn't wind up in one of those multi-tweeted truck type fights where they wrestle around and nothing ever really happens. At least you didn't go there.
Yeah,
so you got that
those
going
aren't
for
the headlines.
You, right?
You don't want to make those headlines.
Exactly. That was my point of view after the race. I'm like, why am I going to go start a bunch of drama right now? Why don't we just let it cool down and go from there? But it is what it is.
All right, there it is. Alex, man, we appreciate your time. Congratulations on a huge weekend at New Hampshire Motor Speedway, and look forward to catching up with you at Richmond, if not sooner, and hopefully you'll get some more seat time along the way between those 2 races so you don't get rusty. But, man, you got a puppy to take care of, so you're a parent now. You got responsibilities,
Your
right?
hands are full.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, guys. I really appreciate it.
There you go. Alex Bowman with a huge weekend. And, boy, the thing that jumped out at me there is right at the very beginning, he goes, I hadn't even had my cup license renewed.
That shocked me.
Yeah.
And then I didn't know either, which I should have assumed just because of the time frame being so tight, that he was in Dale Jr.'s seat and Dale Jr.'s wheel. A lot of times, when they're substitute drivers, they will switch out the seat, switch out the steering wheel. But he was using all of Junior's equipment, which, a driver hopping to another driver's equipment, that's not always easy.
They talked about this in the availability they had with some of the Hendrick folks at New Hampshire, and said at first they thought they might just need somebody to fill in, give Junior a couple laps, get him out of the car, and get somebody else in, which fits because he and Alex are similar size and build. But then if it turns out that he can't go, they're going to make some kind of decision by Wednesday, I think, and they have to put Jeff Gordon in the car. Obviously not the same size, so they will have to change a lot of stuff around.
Yeah. That's kudos to them, for getting that together with Alex in such short notice, having a great run that they did, even though the finish wasn't indicative, again, of how Alex ran. But, again, we talked about it earlier. It's a team sport. So, good job to Alex. He did a great job wheeling Dale's machine, but credit to the entire team for making that work.
Under very difficult circumstances. By the way, Joey Meyer just tweeted a little while ago, and he says, now somebody to make me look good. She's got a lot more hair than me, Joey, so she has more hair than the both of us put together on our best day, so we got that going for us. And now he's tweeting pictures from Tahoe at us. So we got that to go.
Joey gallivanting the country while we're here.
Gallivanting. That's exactly what he's doing. All right, another time out here on Motorsports Monday. We'll talk some on-track, off-track after this, and if you want to play along with Twitter, do that. Ask MRN. Use that hashtag.
This is MRN Motorsports Monday.
Whatever you drive, wherever you go, Hercules Tires will get you there, whether you're running on dirt or running a job. Our dependable, high-quality tires are the perfect fit for your needs. For unmatched value, selection, and warranty with industry-leading road hazard protection, there's only one choice: Hercules Tires. To learn more, visit HerculesTire.com or call 800-677-9535. Hercules Tires, ride on our strength.
The Toyota racing team was born out of true American tradition. We've racked up 332 NASCAR wins. That's a whole lot of victory laps. Just last year, Toyota racing driver Kyle Busch took home the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series championship. We even have Toyota drivers racing Tundras in the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series. But winning isn't our only tradition. Toyota has been in North America for almost 60 years. We have 10 Toyota assembly plants scattered throughout the United States. Those plants produce 9 of our models right here, including the Camry, Tacoma, and Tundra. In 2014, a total of 1.3 million Toyota vehicles were assembled here in America. That's a lot of cars. The production of all those vehicles has created thousands of American jobs. That's a lot of opportunities. Opportunities that we'd like to keep going for years to come. So let's go, America. Let's go, NASCAR. Let's go places. Head on over to toyotaracing.com to find more info on our drivers. NASCAR is a registered trademark of the National Association for Stock Car Auto Racing, Inc.
Hey, I'm Michael Waltrip. Now back to Joey Meyer and Woody Cain on Motorsports Monday.
Michael Waltrip, all of them are coming out, but they're thanking Joey Meyer, who's not here. Now he's tweeting beach pictures at us from Lake Tahoe. But be that as it may, we'll work him over when he gets back a little bit later on. This is the portion of the program, if you're new to the show, where we start talking about some things that we think are going well and some things that aren't going quite so well in the world of motorsports. We call it on track, off track. Kim, what's going well in your world?
I think what's on track is Dale Jr.'s choice to sideline himself. As a driver, late in his career, who's still looking for a Sprint Cup Series championship, not easy to pull yourself voluntarily out of the car. So I think his decision, again, to take himself out of the car for the concussion-like symptoms he's been having was an excellent choice. We've seen across multiple professional sports, even high school sports, how concussions are not something to be messed with. They're a very serious matter. So for Junior to take that initiative, again, these drivers want to be in the car. This isn't an instance of, I just want to take a break. They would rather be in that car than anywhere else. And for him to do that and, again, take the initiative, I think that was
a lot of character.
Kudos. A lot of character, a lot of bravery to do that.
Don't want to hurt the team, keep them going forward in the right direction. It is, but you got to think about the big picture moving forward. But think about this. Most of these guys came up in an era, and I remember years ago when his father had to climb out of the car, and he was practically in tears when he had to get out of the car and give it to somebody somebody else. Because back in the day coming up, that could be the end of your career, not because of the injury itself, but if somebody gets in your car and
talent.
does well, then you could be out of a ride. And that's, I think, the mentality that most of these drivers, at least the ones who have been around a few years, came up under.
Yeah, and not only that, just taking the precaution. Obviously, he's having symptoms now, but looking at how severe concussions can be, when you have multiple concussions, the effect builds up. This isn't just you get the same kind of thing every time you have one. It just multiplies.
It's not like a bee sting.
No.
Serious.
There's enhanced risks when you have multiple concussions. So, taking that into consideration, knowing that you can get in a crash,
And those ones
easy.
they show the replays, the ones that he had at Michigan and at Daytona, didn't look, I mean, I know it's different if you're in the seat, but to the outside observer, they didn't look all that severe.
Yeah, well, you don't know, though, because it's a brain injury.
Motion,
it's not something, and that's the interesting thing, too, about, a concussion. It's not like a broken ankle or a broken wrist where you put a cast on and you're fine.
Yeah, X amount of time and it heals.
It's a slow healing, a self-healing thing. There's not really anything you can do. You can't just pop an aspirin and make it better, or put on a cast on it and make it better. So
you have to just wait it out.
Yeah.
And boy, it is a scary proposition, but that's a good thing too that they're doing all the baseline scans on the guys now, so they have something to compare it to. All that's very valuable. All right, for me on track is the Saturday action at New Hampshire Motor Speedway. To me, and Joey tweeted about this as well during the weekend, it's one of the best values in all of motorsports. You get the Whelen Modifieds, you get the Xfinity Series race, you get the Cain Pro Series, and a couple of Cup practice sessions along the way. You can get a ticket for less than $40 to that. That, to me, you want to talk about value. Try to go to an NFL game and get 3 or 4 games, or an NBA game and try and get 3 or 4 contests. You don't get that.
Not only that, if you've never been to New Hampshire, you talk about all these things you get on Saturday with that ticket, but the atmosphere is heightened. New Hampshire's a mile track. It's a small track, and so once you get in that infield and all of those cars are there, it's jam-packed. The energy level is so exciting. So I think, again, the value, very good.
Fantastic. But we'll talk a little bit more about this later. On the other hand, there weren't all that many people in the stands, but let's shift over to off-track. What do you got going on there?
Off-track, I'm going to say NASCAR not testing what Joey was calling the L2, so the lower downforce package, the one they're going to unroll in 2017. The fact that they haven't or aren't going to test it more, at least that we know of, specifically, though, at places like Bristol or a smaller track. We tested it at Michigan. We tested it at Kentucky. They're similar in length. Michigan, 2 miles, Kentucky, 1.5 miles. And then Kentucky having all the different variables we saw there with the repavement, the reconfiguration, the new tire. I don't think it was a good test. Now,
from the data you're getting, a lot of the teams were saying we don't know if what we were getting was because of the repave or the tire or the package or what.
Yeah, I know you guys hit on that last week as well, but the fact that there isn't a huge variety in the tracks they did test it at. Now, I don't think testing it more is going to give NASCAR a ton of information. I think they know what they want in the 2017 package. It wouldn't change that much, seeing it again. But I would like to see it on a short track like Bristol when they're beating and they're banging, because that newer package makes the cars harder to drive.
Which is what everybody says they want, which doesn't make sense, but that's what they want.
That's what they want. It makes the races more fun to watch. And so I would love to see that, or just a preview of it on a short track like a Bristol, before we roll it out in 2017.
Now, you and I were talking before the show. There was some information last week, some stories about there was a meeting midweek last week between NASCAR and some of the teams, the crew chiefs, the drivers, to talk about the package. And there was some discussion that maybe there would be one more race this year, but the one that kept popping up was Michigan again. And I'm thinking, wait, you already went there. Why do you want to test it at that one? Don't you want to get different data from a different track?
You would think. Maybe they want to compare the data to see if it is effective in both races equally. I don't know, but I'm with you, though. If you're going to test it again, why wouldn't you test it on a different track and a completely different track in terms of length, in terms of banking, in terms of conditions, the type of surface? So for me, if you're going to test again, for me, it's Bristol.
Yeah, get some new data. Well, you mentioned the short track. You wouldn't want to have it be at Richmond, the determining race to see who's going to make the chase or not. So Bristol would make the most sense.
You wouldn't want it to be fair. I'm not opposed to it. Just Throw him another curve.
Kim's throwing him under the bus. Here we go. All right, for me, for off track, gets back to the other side of what I was talking about at New Hampshire with the attendance. The Xfinity Series attendance on Saturday, there's no other way to say it. It was bad. It was really bad. You look at some of the pictures, and there was nobody in the stands. There are a variety of opinions as to whether or not it's, well, Kyle Busch was going to be there, and he won, and goodness, he leads 190 of the 200 laps. Was it, I don't know, not what people think are compelling storylines? Was it traffic? Are hotel prices too high? I think the trap that we fall into sometimes with this is you see people rage when Kyle on social media, when Kyle Busch wins. They say, oh, you got to get these Cup drivers out of the Xfinity Series. But when Dale Jr. does it and wins, oh, we want to have a parade, fireworks, and the whole ball. So it's directed at Kyle Busch, which I understand because he's been very good, very dominant in that series. But I don't think it's so simple as to say it's Cup drivers or it's a tire. Or there are numerous factors, I think, that play into it.
To your point, I think it's an intersection of factors. I don't think there's one factor in particular that's keeping people away from the track. I think it's this just perfect storm of all these different things and different reasons. And some people might have multiple reasons for not going, and some might have one. But to your point about the Sprint Cup Series drivers, in the Xfinity Series races, I know people don't want to see Kyle Busch win. They always like to see Junior win, but when Kyle wins and when he does it in dominant fashion like he did, where he leads all but 10 laps, it always brings up the discussion. I was on Twitter during and after the race, and all people were tweeting about is these Cup guys should not be in the lower series.
Unless it's my guy.
I disagree, though, because if you talk to any of the other drivers who run regular in the Xfinity Series, even the Truck Series, those full-time drivers say, no, we want the Sprint Cup Series. We want the elite of the elite running when they can in our series, because we know when we pass them, that shows that maybe we're ready for the next level. It makes us better. And I remember, a few years ago, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. talking to that point exactly before he moved up to the Sprint Cup Series, or when he was in transition, saying, how did I know when I was ready for the Sprint Cup Series? When the Sprint Cup Series regulars were running Xfinity Series, and I was able to pass them. Yeah. So I'm not saying there shouldn't maybe be a limit to the number of races.
Yeah, I wouldn't argue that. I wouldn't argue that. But Joey and I make a point when we have Xfinity drivers on to ask them what they think about this particular issue. Yeah. And we've not had one driver, not one, to this point say, no, they shouldn't be in the series. They all say, bring them on. We want to run against them. That's what makes us better.
Yeah, well, when you talk to them in post-race, when they do pass a guy like a Kyle Busch or a Matt Kenseth or whoever, what Sprint Cup Series regular in particular that's running that weekend, that's usually kind of the highlight of their day. They may have finished first, they may have finished 15th, but if they passed a Kyle Busch or a Brad Keselowski at one point in the race, that's what they're telling us. They're like, man, I could have done better. I could have had a better finish. But did you see me pass so-and-so?
Yeah. That's what they want to talk about afterwards, for sure. Let's go back to something you mentioned a moment ago about Dale Jr. being willing to take himself out of the car for the concussion-like symptoms, and I admire him for that as well. All the drivers I saw talk about it this weekend were praising him for doing that. But if you're Indianapolis Motor Speedway right now, aren't you chomping at the bit to go, oh, guess who's going to be in the 88 this weekend? It's going to be Jeff Gordon. Not that Dale Jr.'s not a star, but if you're Indianapolis, don't you want the hometown boy in that race?
I think it's a toss-up. I can look at it two ways. I can look at it, yes, they want the hometown guy, Jeff Gordon. It's going to bring out more fans. He's also a 5-time winner at Indy.
Pretty good.
And he would be pulling himself out of retirement. That's a big deal.
Yeah, it is.
Not only that, you could have, at the end of Indy, potentially a battle between Tony Stewart and Jeff Gordon.
Wow. Twitter would melt. Your phone would literally drip between your fingers if that happened.
Both of them, essentially, Tony in his retirement year, Jeff coming out of retirement, both have won multiple times at Indy, so they certainly could be in that position. But at the same time, Junior winning Indy?
That would be large as well.
That would break the internet. So it really is a toss-up. Obviously we want to see Junior get well and be back in the car as soon as possible. I would like to see him back for Indy. But if he can't participate yet, I'm not opposed to seeing Jeff Gordon back
of all
in
the guys
car.
that they could pick to put in the seat,
Right.
that would definitely make the needle move for sure. I think it's something to keep an eye on. Again, Hendrick Motorsports said last weekend, Friday, I believe, that it's Junior's seat. We want him back as soon as possible, but if he can't go, Jeff Gordon is going to be the guy. Rick Hendrick also was asked about it over the weekend and said, nope, we want Dale Jr. to be here a long time. He was asked about it from a long-term perspective. Are you concerned that these multiple incidents might shorten his career? And he said, no, we want him to get better. We want him in the car for a long, long time.
I mean, a long, long time. He is 41, though.
I know. Can you believe that? That
Not
seems
to say he
hard
doesn't
to believe.
not to say he doesn't have a good handful of years left, but you have to keep that into consideration too, especially when talking about an injury. Is you know, Dale Jr.'s not 20. So rebounding back can be more difficult as you're getting older. I forget, though, that he's 41.
I know.
To me,
it seems hard to
just
believe.
because he's just so low-key and laid back and likes to have fun, I think of him as like 35. I don't know.
There you go. See there? Kim's giving Junior some compliments. All right, we got to take another time out here on Motorsports Monday. Rico Abreu is going to join us on the other side. He had a big weekend already at Eldora Speedway, and he's going to race the truck there this coming Wednesday. They'll be practicing on Tuesday. We'll have all kinds of information coming out of the track for you this week because MRN will have all those truck races, and in particular, this one Wednesday night from Eldora. So we'll talk about that on the other side of the break.
This is MRN Motorsports Monday.
In the Outback, we think the best part about racing is the noise, the engine, the pits, and a Kevin Harvick top 10 finish. Especially a Kevin Harvick top 10 finish. That's because if Kevin Happy Harvick, driver of the number 4 Chevrolet, places in the top 10 in today's race, there's free bloomin' onions this Monday. So you'll have a happy bloomin' Monday. Only at Outback Steakhouse. Valid with any purchase. One per table. Participation may vary. Registered trademarks used with permission.
Business is a lot like racing. It takes a strong team of pros to succeed. That's why Freightliner Trucks created TeamRunSmart.com, a free online community that connects owner-operators with the trucking industry's A-team. The Team Run Smart pros and coaches help maximize your profitability with real-world advice on everything from fuel-efficient specking to healthy eating to filing taxes. Sign up today to earn rewards and connect with fellow truckers at TeamRunSmart.com.
Hi, I'm Marty Huff. Join me and 10-time NHRA National Event winner Doug Herbert for 1 hour of horsepower Thursdays at noon on the Straight Line. We'll talk to the biggest names in NHRA drag racing and keep you up to date with news from the pits, tracks, and shops across the country. Join us Thursdays at noon for the Straight Line, streaming live on the MRN app, the Motor Racing Network's YouTube channel, and on MRN.com.
I'm Bubba Wallace, and you're listening to MRN Motorsports Monday with Joey Meyer and Woody Cain.
How about Bubba Wallace doing well? He's up to 9th in the standings now in the Xfinity Series, and they'll battle it out here down the stretch to see which drivers are going to make that chase.
Yeah, I mean, I'm impressed by that, but looking at the stats, I'm more impressed by rookies Brennan Poole and Brandon Jones, who currently tie in the 7th spot. Both of those guys having great runs this season, and they couldn't be nicer is the thing.
Oh, yeah.
That's what makes me happy to see them doing so well, is you talk to both Brennan and Brandon.
Love both of those guys. They're really cool to talk to.
Nicest guys, down to earth, as humble as pie. Love them both.
Brennan had one of my favorite quotes of the year. He says now, I won Talladega for 5 minutes.
I love it.
And then that went away. We got a Twitter question here now. Zach Copeland wants to know, is Jeff Gordon driving for Junior about putting fans in the seats or that he could possibly win? Why not another driver from JRM? What do you think?
I mean, yeah, that's a good point. But looking at the JRM lineup, there aren't too many options to pull from, I think, in terms of experience level at Indy on the Cup side. And really, when you are a team owner or you're the competition director, you want the driver who you think is going to have the most or best chance at getting to victory lane. And looking at Jeff's record there, again, a 5-time winner at Indy, that's Jeff Gordon. And who's to say that maybe Jeff didn't come knocking on their door and say, hey.
Well, Rick Hendrick said that when he first talked to Jeff about it, he thought he was kidding. Like, wait, you're joking, right?
Yeah.
No, I'm not. You might be in the car next week, so be ready. But yeah, I mean, if you're looking at just JRM, your options then become Elliott Sadler and Justin Allgaier, both who have Cup experience. Allgaier's is more recent. Elliott Sadler has a longer career and longer, more total cumulative races on the Cup side. But again, you're looking at a guy, Elliott Sadler. I don't know if he's even driven this package at all.
No, nor has Allgaier.
Yeah.
So I mean, again, I don't think it's necessarily a case of trying to put bottoms in seats. I think it's just the best option, and it's super cool too. And you have to go back to Jeff Gordon's retirement year. People had asked him, what would put you back in a seat? And he said, if it was a race like an Indy or a Daytona 500 and I had a good ride, I would come back. And so
that would be the way to make it happen.
Yeah.
We're waiting on Rico Abreu to call us now. He's doing some appearance work for Safelite, his sponsor in the Camping World Truck Series. But, Kim, here's a guy we were talking earlier before the show that comes from the dirt track world, has run a bunch of races at Eldora this past weekend, both because that's what he loves to do and because he wanted to get some extra track time. But he was asked, do you think that this is your best chance to win? And he said not necessarily.
Yeah, he said he actually thought the mile and a halfs he had a better or maybe just as good of a shot to win. Looking at his stats, I would tend to disagree, but I'm not Rico. So he knows how he can run and how well he runs. And so if he feels just as confident on mile and a half, so I'll take it for what it's worth. But I think he's going to be one of the front runners come Wednesday.
Yeah, I mean, look at the success that Christopher Bell had last year. He's run a lot. I mean, that's where he came from as well, the dirt track world, the sprint car world, and he goes out and wins Eldora last year.
Yeah, and I'm interested to talk to Rico and ask him if that gives him a little more confidence. Because, again, if you look at the field going into Wednesday, the guys with the most experience at Eldora are Christopher Bell and Rico Abreu because they've had over, a dozen races, even though not run in NASCAR's top series, but they know that track, they know how it reacts, and that sort of thing. And to see Christopher win it last year has to help Rico in terms of going to the weekend thinking this could be my shot, not only to get my first National Series win, but to lock myself into the chase because the Truck Series again has the chase as well.
All right, quick timeout now on Motorsports Monday. When we come back, Rico Abreu is calling in right now. Stick around.
This is MRN Motorsports Monday.
In the Outback, we think the best part about racing is the noise, the engine, the pits, and a Kevin Harvick top 10 finish, especially a Kevin Harvick top 10 finish. That's because if Kevin Happy Harvick, driver of the number 4 Chevrolet, places in the top 10 in today's race, there's free bloomin' onions this Monday. So you'll have a happy bloomin' Monday. Only at Outback Steakhouse. Valid with any purchase. One per table. Participation may vary. Registered trademarks used with permission.
Are you in the concrete, construction, or waste industry? Are repair bills starting to pile up as your current mixer, dump, or waste truck starts to show its age? Before you make that plunge, consider an alternative to buying new. The Housby 2G second generation program is the complete refurbishment of your existing used trucks without the hefty price tag that comes with it. Extend the life of your current trucks today and give yourself an economic alternative to that new truck price. For more information, visit Housby.com. Housby, an official sponsor of NASCAR for over 40 years.
It's all over at Martinsville, Virginia. Richard Petty has pulled it off.
Throwback Thursday, classic MRN race broadcast on MRN.com.
Waltrip will win the track race to turn 3. Earnhardt gets him. Hard into the wall goes Waltrip. Hard goes Earnhardt. Everybody else spins either way.
Out of the number 4 corner down to the line. Neil Bonnet is going to win. The Northwestern Bank 400. He'll beat Waltrip a 2-car length.
What a finish here at North Wilkesboro.
Throwback Thursday, Thursdays at 1 Eastern on MRN.com.
I'm Ryan Blaney, and you're listening to MRN Motorsports Monday with championship spotter Joey Meyer and Woody Cain. Had world-class Joey Meyer. I don't want to say that. It's on radio. You guys are going to use that.
Take 2.
To MRN Motorsports Monday with championship spotter and adequate pilot Joey Meyer and Woody Cain.
Adequate pilot. I love that.
I
Whenever
love
people
that.
give Joey crap, I love it. It's always one of my favorite moments of the show.
That was probably my favorite rejoin. That was good.
Absolutely. It's really good. And he thought, you can't play this. Oh, yes, we will.
Oh, we will.
All right, let's go to the guest line now and welcome on a guy who's been very busy this weekend. Rico Abreu was all over Eldora Speedway this past weekend, but his sponsor is Safelite. And, dude, I understand they put you to work. They got you changing out windshields this morning. What's going on?
Yeah, man, it was actually pretty fun. We got to go to a customer who's a huge NASCAR fan. They've done some business in the past with Safelite, and I got to go with one of the techs and change the windshield. It was actually really cool, and we surprised the fan, and his jaw hit the floor when he seen me get out of the car. So it was really exciting to see.
I thought maybe you were a certified tech now or something, and you were going to be going to people's houses.
I can be now. I'm certified now.
That's fantastic.
Speaking of fans, in your transition into stock cars, are you finding that a lot of your fans that were on the dirt track side have followed you over to NASCAR? Maybe they weren't NASCAR fans before, but now that you're behind the wheel of a Camping World Truck Series race truck, that they may have joined the NASCAR fandom?
Definitely a few of them, that have come over and watched a few of my truck races, especially this weekend this week at Eldora. A bunch of fans that were at the Kings Royal over the weekend are just going to camp all the way through and stay for Eldora Wednesday night.
That is really cool. Now, I saw folks kind of think of it in terms of NASCAR terms, and it's not just one event. I saw you got, a second and a third at Eldora this weekend? Is that right?
Yeah, definitely. I had a great weekend at Eldora. I finished third the first 2 nights and then second the final night. I almost won. I had a chance to win the race, but it just it came right down to the end, and obviously Tony Stewart and his race team with the driver Donnie Schatz, they've won so many races this year, and they ended up winning the final night of the Kings Royal.
So nearly a dozen career races at Eldora. Confidence level, what is it coming into your first Truck Series race at that track? And also looking back at last year, because if we're looking at the field for Wednesday's race, you and Christopher Bell have the most experience overall there. Christopher won last year. So does that increase your confidence level coming into the race?
Yeah, a lot. And Eldora's unique racing style, you run the high side, the wall by the wall, and I feel like that's where I've excelled this year on the tracks that like Texas and Atlanta, where I've had some better finishes. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to racing against Christopher, Kyle, the Dillon boys, the Pierce boy. So it'll be exciting. And I think, with the racing that they've had the last few weeks at Eldora, it'll, bring it on over to the truck race, and we'll find out, real quick who's going to be fast.
Chatting with Rico Abreu from ThorSport Racing. He'll have the Safe Flight machine on track Tuesday and Wednesday at Eldora. Rico, give folks an idea, because it is completely, if there's even anything further apart, apples and oranges aren't adequate to describe the sprint car versus the truck. But your expectations in terms of how different these two are going to be, even though it's the same track?
The track, it'll be a little bit slower paced. Obviously, they weigh a lot more, a little less horsepower, but the surface will be real slick, a little bit of dust, I'm sure. And I think, the trucks will obviously slide around a lot more with that slicker tire compared to a sprint car tire. It should be really interesting, I think. I think they got it down on the track prep-wise, how they want it. And as of last year, you've seen they worked the track a little bit right before the race, and it definitely put on some 3 to 4 wide racing.
Now, Tony Stewart goes out there and plays mad scientist with that, right? Making sure it's exactly like he wants it.
No, he does, and he does a great job on making some last-minute calls like he did last year. I think he worked the track right in the middle of the surface, brought that moisture back up into it, brought the grip level back, and you've seen the trucks, work all the way from the bottom to the top, and you could put your truck wherever it wanted to go.
You mentioned getting to race against Larson. I know you and Kyle are good friends. The Sprint Cup Series is in Indy, which isn't actually too far from Rosberg, but we don't typically see a ton of Cup drivers make the trip to run Eldora. Does that surprise you? And why don't you think we see more Cup drivers running this race?
I'm not sure why they don't run more, why they don't run this race, but I know Kyle with his history of dirt track racing and the previous years he's done very well there. So I know he wants to try to get that win under his belt. But it's going to be tough. It's a tough field, with the dirt track racers that are going to be there. And the whole Camping World Truck Series is tough this year, I feel, with the rookies. There's going to be a ton of rookies there that haven't been the dirt experience, which I'm looking forward to experiencing that as well.
I know you're trying to make a name for yourself in the Camping World Truck Series, so I don't want to get ahead of myself, but whenever we visit Eldora, the question always comes up, would you like to see a dirt race in the Xfinity Series or the Cup Series? Is that something that you see in the future of NASCAR and would potentially, as you move up in the ranks, like to race?
Yeah, I think so. I think that, if this does well, over the past, 4 years like it's done, I think they should keep adding dirt races to their schedule.
Chatting with Rico Abreu from ThorSport, the Safe Flight Toyota. Rico, a lot of folks remember the fire at ThorSport several weeks ago now. Did any of your Eldora equipment get swept up in that, and how are you guys doing now in the recovery process?
My Eldora truck did not was not affected by the fire, and I believe as of today they are starting the process of moving back in to ThorSport. So they've had a great cleaning crew there to do the cleanup process, and now they're working on moving everything back into the shop.
Let's talk about your rookie season at ThorSport. You've got a great lineup of teammates over there, currently 14th in points. If you had to give yourself a grade so far this season, what would it be?
I'm not sure. Definitely not as great as I'd like it to be. But we're working on having a better second half of the season, some better finishes. We have the speed. We just need some better finishes, and I feel like this week at Eldora is the right track to start that.
Yeah,
start off on.
Definitely get moving in that direction. When you go back to some of these guys now and your teammates, what kinds of things have been easier for you, and what kinds of things have been more difficult for you in terms of making the transition?
The biggest part of my transition has been the race lengths, the pace set, getting up to speed when you get to the track. I've never seen any of these racetracks we're going to, so just being able to fire off your weekend up to speed, which it then tends to take me to the end of practice to really get down some good lap times that everyone's comfortable with, which is tougher to know really where your truck is at earlier and the balance of it. But ThorSport does a great job at supplying me a great Tundra, and they just leave it up to me to be able to do my job when I get to the racetrack. I feel like I've let them down a few times, but then again, the next week we'll have some speed, which keeps the great confidence in the team.
Outside of your teammates, and it doesn't necessarily have to be in the Camping World Truck Series, it could be across any of the national series, is there a driver that you typically go to for advice when you're visiting these tracks for the first time, or a driver who maybe their driving style is most like yours, so you feel like you can get the best information from?
I've been leaning on Matt Crafton quite a bit. He is my teammate, so it's a little easier to lean on him, but he is just really detailed about everything he explains, and he's been racing trucks for a long time. I always give him a hard time that he could be my dad. I end up racing against him in the truck series. I believe he's 40 years old this year, so he's and he has a bunch of races under his belt, a great relationship with ThorSport, and I tend to build a great relationship with him on and off the racetrack, where I can go to him for advice, or any time I'm struggling, he's not afraid to come over and help my team out, and definitely our crew chiefs have a great connection.
Now, on the other side of that, when you're going to Eldora this week, do those guys come to you and say, hey, Rico, what about this or that?
A few of them, Cameron, we're going to go over some film Tuesday before we get on track, just of the race last year. But, Matt's got some dirt experience. He's ran the truck race a few times, so I've actually gone to him, and seen the difference, what he's thought of the truck race, and just some pointers, because he's already experienced being on in his Tundra on dirt.
Finally, biggest surprise so far this season for you?
Probably how fast I've been how fast I was at Texas, and just knowing that I do have the speed. It's just about putting the whole night together.
Man, that's fantastic. Well, Rico, we appreciate your time taking away from putting in those windshields for folks now with Safe Light. We need to let you get back to work so you can be a full certified tech next time we see you. Look forward to catching up with you Tuesday and Wednesday.
Thank you, guys.
There you go. Rico Abreu, the Safe Flight Tundra for ThorSport Racing. Well, he's just a cool guy. Just a cool story. Fun to talk to. I remember right after the fire at ThorSport, we did the Iowa race, and he came to Iowa without a backup truck because it was damaged in the fire. Mm-hmm. So I went up and interviewed him in pre-race, and I said, well, did you have to tiptoe around or did you have to be really careful? And he said, no, we're racers. We want to go. Just that excitement and that joy of racing is what comes through anytime you talk to him.
And I think it's even more heightened because he came from the dirt world and came from grassroots, and so I love seeing the transition from when drivers do that from the dirt track world to stock cars. I think their panache or their passion is just even more heightened than we see from some other drivers.
Fantastic. Well, listen, thanks for coming by and filling in for Joey. Our follicle count has gone way up here today, but want to remind folks, 4 o'clock Eastern if you're watching on a Monday, Matt Kenseth will be at NASCAR Live, 800-2 NASCAR the number, and Wednesday night at 7 o'clock we will be live from Eldora Speedway for the Camping World Truck Series. For Kim Coon, the missing Joey Meyer, I'm Woody Cain saying thanks for joining us, everyone. See you next Monday.
You've been listening to MRN Motorsports Monday, presented by Outback Steakhouse. Tune in again next Monday at noon Eastern for all the latest news, results, and interviews from NASCAR on MotorRacingNetwork.com. Brought to you by Hercules Tires. MRN Motorsports Monday is also available on demand at the MotorRacingNetwork.com Media Center. Or you can download it from iTunes or Stitcher. MRN Motorsports Monday is a production of the Motor Racing Network. All rights reserved.